Hi, I'm Katie Hacker, your host, and this season is a jewelry making workshop with a featured designer each week. And a lot of them are favorite guests from past seasons like Molly Schaller. Hi, Molly.
Hi, Katie.
Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So one of the things that I love about your jewelry is that you use trends to create the pieces that you make, and you have such a great eye for color. And it all just starts with this style board, right?
Yep, this is one of my favorite tools to use, and it's also fun to search for images out of magazines, out of even online. You can print out things that you like. But basically what I do is I start with images I like that have colors I like, because that's the thing that for me makes a lot of my designs exciting.
Yeah.
And so basically I find the images first, and sometimes they'll be just images of nature, which I think you can always find a lot of inspiration in nature.
Definitely.
Or out of fashion magazines, which is really fun too, to flip through and pull out pages you like.
Yeah, and I noticed that not all of your pictures here have jewelry. Like you said, you have some different images here with the trees, and this one is really beautiful the way that the colors are kind of monochromatic, but there's a little bit of blue in there.
Yep.
So then you start pulling beads together that look kind of similar, right?
Yeah, basically. And I think a lot of times you can, something from images that you can get, that if you find an image that works for you, like that just really seems to resonate with you, a lot of times it's the proportion of colors. So like you said, in this one, there's a, there's like kind of a neutral in the foreground, but then there's blues and greens in the background. So what I did was I pulled out a lot of blues and greens, and then I also like that the pops of color that happen with the oranges and the yellows along with that green. And so I found a few beads that were those colors to just add that little pop.
Yeah,
in the
that's
background.
fun, and it's totally unexpected, and you maybe wouldn't have thought of that if you hadn't seen the pictures, that really kind of bring that together. And I love these little magnets that you made. These are so cute and fun.
Thank you. They're little sliders. They just come in a strand, and all you do is you use some like really strong quick drying cement and those tiny strong magnets, and you want to make sure that the pieces that you use to glue them onto are big enough for your fingers to hold.
Yeah, so you really could use any flat back, and that one gives a lot of sparkle too.
Yeah, and it makes your board more fun.
Definitely. And what about the drawing? When does that happen?
Usually that for me happens after I've picked the colors and the beads, because then you kind of know what you have to work with.
The shapes and everything.
Because different shapes go together differently. So yeah, you'll go through that, and and things do change. As you might have a drawing that works one way, but then when you put it together on your board, you find out, this bead doesn't work well with that bead, and so you just kind of play with it until you find something that works.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the other color palette, because that's really pretty too.
That one is more, it's I wouldn't say more sophisticated, but there's something about it that is a little bit more risky. I don't know what it is. I think it's that there's a lot of colors that you wouldn't think about putting together, like pinks and reds or something, along with some purples that often will go kind of girly or like young girly, but the images
really
don't feel
elegant.
that way.
Yeah,
it actually works
the
well.
images look really elegant, and kind of you have the sort of world flavor too there.
Exactly.
Really pretty. And so let's talk a little bit about these bracelets, because this is a piece, I'm assuming you started with these beautiful focal beads.
I did. I really liked how the facets in these beads capture light in different ways, and I liked how, depending what color you put the bead with, it kind of changes the way that you perceive the colors in the bead. So I went with jewel tones on most of them, so that these beads, it's funny, if you flip them one way, they look kind of like a gold and purple, and you flip them the other way, they're like a blue-green.
Oh, perfect.
And so I chose purples, I chose navy blue, and then turquoise. And then I even chose some leather that was more like almost a light minty, it wasn't really minty green, but like a green that's sage, we'll call it sage green.
Yeah, it looks really pretty with those green beads.
Thank you.
And of course, this is a trend with stacking bracelets.
Yes.
It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it's so much fun, and then you just stack them up your arms and have a lot of fun with it. And even you can add, you don't have to leave it with just the leather. You can add a strand of beads here and there to even give it more texture and movement.
That looks really pretty. So how do we get started making the bracelet?
Well, this is actually a pretty simple bracelet. It starts, like I said, with this focal bead. And I went ahead, and you're going to make a wrapped loop. I started with about a 4-inch piece of 20 gauge wire. And I used the softer artistic wire because it's easy to work with, but it stays hard enough to be solid when you're using this. So I went ahead and made one wrapped loop. And then you're just gonna make a second wrapped loop on the other side to hold it all together.
And we put the magnifier here just in case you need it. But you know, sometimes people need a little bit of extra help when they're working on smaller things, or especially too when you're working with color. You know, that natural light can help you.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Your lighting, especially in pieces like this, I found that I might sometimes have one piece that I really like when I'm in my studio, and then I take it in the house or outside, and I'm like, oh, it's not working the way I hoped it would. So it's good to work with natural light. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this wrapped loop over here. And I really like how soft this wire is. It makes it easier to work. And I always try to kind of count my loops when I'm working and have about
even
3 loops. Yeah, so it's even on each side. It gives you a little more, I don't know, it just looks more finished that way. And snip the end so that you have, this will be your center bead component.
Okay.
Then we're gonna make a wrapped loop for this little guy.
Those are so pretty too.
Thank you. These are some of my favorites. I come back to them over and over and over. And the way that I do this is actually I'll take another about 4-inch piece of wire and I bend it so that it follows that shape of the bead.
Yeah.
And then I'll make a right hand turn so it kind of goes up like a coat hanger. Then
That's a good way of describing it. You're right, it does.
And they also, it's nice, then you just follow across with that one. And you can hold on to one and make a, let's see what the best way to do this one is, so everyone can see it. So just kind of wrap around. And if you want to, you can be really tidy about this, or you can be a little messy,
right.
Because you are going to be covering this part up with the second loop. Snip it. And the second part of the loop is you're just going to make another bend and make a wrapped loop. And if you want to, you can be tidy again, or you can just kind of be messy and go right over the top of that other loop. And it just depends, whatever you feel like doing.
And this is the little dangle that you're going to put at the end of the bracelet.
Yeah, this kind of goes next to the clasp. So you'll have those. Next, you're going to get your
suede lacing.
Suede lacing. And I use about 12 inches here, and it depends on the size of the wrist you want to work with, and you can make them relatively adjustable. But I'll go ahead and cut that in half because I'm going to double it over.
Okay, so you coil your wire here where it's folded. Okay, and then?
Well, the next step is to go ahead and make this wire wrap, the coil around the leather. So you're going to go ahead and pass the leather through the loop until it meets back at the end with the other one, getting them relatively close. And then you're going to take one of your pieces of 4-inch wire, and I usually make a bend in the U shape at the beginning, and that's what's kind of loop around.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Your leather, because I think the start is the hardest part always.
I think you're right.
To get it to kind of conform to that wire. But once you get started, it really isn't too hard at all. And I kind of hook it around 1/2 of the
Yeah, so you sort of
leather.
make a staple.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then you start to wrap. And it just takes a little bit of time to get it going. And let's see. Same with this one. You want to try to get it pretty similar on both sides. So it looks like it's about 4 reps. Then you can kind of neaten it up too as you go along and squish it together.
Yeah, I do
But you
the
just
same
keep
thing. So
going.
you can kind of, exactly like you said, make it neater, and when you're finished, you can manipulate it still a little bit.
It is. It's nice and soft. And then to finish it, I just pull it through in between like that. And you just cushion it in there. Give it a couple squeezes and then trim the ends.
Okay.
So that they don't nick you up. And then then you're going to go ahead, you're going to add these ends. I usually use just a dab of glue and I put it on this part, and you fold the ends over. And that's pretty simple.
You can use your chain nose pliers or flat
it works
nose for
really
that.
well.
And then when you're ready to attach the clasp, is it just a jump ring?
It's just a jump ring, and I've found a lot of times it helps to put a tiny bit of chain at the end of it because it's bulky right here.
Right,
And
so
if
it
you
makes
don't
it
do
easier
that,
to fasten.
Yep.
Smart.
Do that and add your little dangle on the end along with that jump ring, and you're finished.
Perfect.